No sane person would want to leave California if they could make it here.
For the first time ever, people are leaving.
In 2020, California lost 650,000 people.
Several high-profile companies have moved their headquarters.
This place is going to sink. Watch, you already have high taxes. Our problems are man-made. All you have to do is pay attention.
It's the money that's doing the talking. The California legislature. It can't go on forever like this.
There's a lot of people that you would be surprised by their stories.
Governor Kathy Hochul and state lawmakers just approved. The law requires all electric heating and cooking in new buildings shorter than 7 stories by 2026. For taller buildings, the deadline is 2029. There are exceptions for large commercial and industrial buildings like stores, hospitals, and restaurants. But there is pushback. The American Gas Association says this change will raise consumer costs and take away their choices. And now from gas stoves to social media. Federal authorities today alleged that Facebook parent company Meta failed to protect the privacy of children. The FTC accused the social media giant of violating a 2020 privacy order that restricted it from monetizing data from users under 18. NTD's Arlene Richards reports.
The Federal Trade Commission proposed sweeping changes on Wednesday to a 2020 privacy order with Facebook, now called Meta. This comes after the agency accused the company of violating the order, which placed restrictions on Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg's control over decisions affecting user privacy. In 2020, Facebook was fined $5 billion for violating a 2012 privacy order. Now the commission wants to impose new restrictions, including prohibiting Facebook, Instagram, and its other services from profiting from data it collects on users under 18. The FTC said in a statement that Facebook misled parents about their ability to control with whom their children communicated. Other proposed restrictions include its use of face recognition technology. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Loans are safe. Many depositors are concerned, though, with this being the third major bank failure in recent weeks. Some experts say the U.S. banking system has now stabilized, while others blame the rapid rise of interest.
But Biden doesn't want to negotiate anything.
These actions are going to make sure that the banking system is safe and sound.
Yeah, right.
Surprise, because it is just not possible to have that jump in interest rates and to find that everybody has matched the liabilities and assets and looked into the interest rates in a responsible manner.
The Fed will meet again this week to decide
the foreign threat that it is. I mean, the communist Chinese have made it very clear. They seek world domination in the 21st century. And these are the type of decisions that need to be made now. Whether the 21st century is going to be an American century, just like the 20th century, or is it going to be a communist Chinese century? And that really is the question that is at the heart of it.
All right, Representative Tom Tiffany of Wisconsin, thank you so much for your time.
Good to join you today.
See right now with the amendments from being suggested by India and Bangladesh. Could you tell us about that?
Well, I've got good news and bad news, okay? The good news is I think they're fighting amongst themselves, and they may try to sneak something through this May, either the treaty or the amendments. But the bad news is they don't seem to care about the negotiations. They're busy implementing and operationalizing the things that are being negotiated. And in these 3 weeks or so before the assembly, this is the time period where they slowly start dribbling out documents that are going to be discussed during the assembly. And so while I've suspected this for quite some time, they're now presenting the documents for things like the Global Digital Health or the preparedness plan for respiratory ailments. They're already putting into operation. They're building the systems that are being negotiated. And you know, they see it as a fait accompli. It might not happen until next year, but they're implementing the things that they're negotiating as if they know what the future holds. They're not waiting for the nations to agree to this. They're just moving forward. And that's that's why I'm a proponent that the solution is to exit the WHO. Because it's a relationship that should be advisory in nature, but they're trying to make it be a command and control operation where, right out of Marx's philosophy, they would have control of the means of production. They want to set up a logistics network. They want 5% of all the money to be spent and 20% of the products to be given to them. The answer is to leave.
That is a fascinating and something that I wish we could dig into more. I want to turn to
We
Alex
did that
and
once,
the United
but we
Nations
went
now.
back like a
What's
fool.
Agenda 21, Alex?
Well, Agenda 21 is a comprehensive global plan. This was signed back in 1992 by virtually every government, every national government in the world. George H.W. Bush, who also was a leading proponent of further empowering the United Nations. He did so quite openly, calling for a new world order where the UN's peacekeeping role would be used to implement the vision of the UN's founders. And Agenda 21 really covers every area of life, every area of law, every area of government. It deals with the environment, it deals with business, it deals with education, it deals with healthcare. And this kind of laid the foundation. Officially, it's the agenda for the 21st century. They call it Agenda 21 for short. And sustainable development is kind of the animating ideology of this. The pretext is that we've got to preserve resources and preserve the planet for future generations. So under the guise of doing this, every single area of our lives needs to be transformed. It's hundreds of pages. People can read the whole agreement, but a very, very significant document. This was never ratified by the U.S. Senate as required for all treaties to be binding, but it has been implemented nevertheless in this country. Bill Clinton used an executive order to push this into every federal agency. They used federal grant-making power to get state and local governments on board. And so we've seen some of the transformational effects. Obviously, there's been a lot of resistance. And this is a long-term goal. To be clear, this is the agenda for the 21st century. We've still got, almost 75 years left in the 21st century. But I encourage people to take a look at this document. It's incredibly significant. It deals with every nation, every part of our lives, every part of our governments. And it really has flown under the radar. Very few people are even aware of this, but yet it has total bipartisan support in Washington, D.C., and it's being implemented around the world.
That is.
You own nothing. And they make that clear in the very next point. You'll have to rent everything. Right? So your overlords, just like they did back in the feudalist ages, will own everything. You will exist at their pleasure. So this fusion of all these totalitarian ideologies, along with this techno-cult of Klaus Schwab with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and we're going to be upgrading ourselves into gods, as his buddy Yuval Noah Harari puts it, you realize this is a major threat, not just to individual liberty, but even to our humanity. And all of the forces that are coming together here, their ideologies are totalitarian to the core in the most dangerous sense of that term.
And to that point, Jordan, do you believe that the WF is working together with these other two organizations, or with the UN and the WHO, or independently?
Yeah, it's all kind of the same club, as my co-panelists have alluded to. It's basically technology, but it's as if I kind of explain the U.S.-China relationship in the same way. It's two competing chess players. They have an agreed-upon rule set, and everyone else is beneath them, and they are not subject to that rule set. So that's kind of how the World Economic Forum navigates its relationships. It's the class that it cares about, and they are free to compete amongst themselves within a certain rule set, and then there are the rest of us who have no rights, no property, no nothing, and they use all of these totalitarian labels to advance their agenda. All of these bumper sticker slogans that they
Wake
come
up,
out with
people!
every 2 years. See
You're
which one
getting
sticks,
screwed!
and they get rid of it and go on to the next one. But it's all that it comes very much from an authoritarian, anti-human mindset.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. That concludes our questions. Thank you all. We'll take a brief break and return to discuss.
Incredibly dangerous. So I agree with the other panelists. This
What
needs to
a
be resisted in every possible
foolish
way.
thing!
One very good avenue to do that is at the state level. I, of course, live in Florida. Our governor, our legislature are already working on legislation to ban central bank digital currencies. I've spoken with legislators
And
across the country
Bitcoin.
who are working
People
on
keep
similar
trying to get
efforts.
me to buy the
Right
shit.
early on during the COVID pandemic, our government here in Florida banned vaccine passports.
Russia has been unable to seize any real strategically significant territory.
We will continue to support because the rest of the world sees it just as it is.
The State Department has not confirmed the victim's identity. They did confirm the death of a U.S. citizen in Ukraine.
The State Department welcomed back a journalist who's been away.
But Ukraine denies involvement. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
A newly released video shows a drone exploding right over the Kremlin in Russia on Wednesday. At first glance, it appears the drone crashed into the flagpole, but when slowed down, the drone goes past the flagpole and then explodes. The Kremlin said 2 drones were used by Ukraine in an assassination attempt against Russian President Vladimir Putin at his residence inside the Kremlin. It also added that Putin wasn't in the Kremlin at the time. Russia claimed the drones were disabled by electronic devices and said Russia has reserved the right to retaliate. A Ukrainian student gave her reaction to the drone incident.
My classmates and I have been talking about this all day. It's very cool. I'm very joyful. It lifted my spirit.
And another Ukrainian resident gave his insight to the situation.
Anything is possible. As long as Ukraine doesn't officially confirm that this was an attack carried out by us, there can be many theories as to who did it.
And shortly after the alleged attack, an advisor to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky denied responsibility and said this.
Any other actions will be interpreted by Russia as terrorist acts, which will allow Russia to justify its large-scale terrorist strikes against civilians and civilian infrastructure.
Amount of migrants lining up on the other side of the border. The mayor of El Paso says the emergency declaration will be implemented for at least 30 days and calls on the federal government to provide more shelters for asylum seekers. Well, it was a somber vigil that was held this afternoon for an 8-year-old boy killed in a mass shooting Friday night. Police say Daniel Lasso was one of 5 people killed when a gunman opened fire. Police say all of the victims were shot from the neck up in what they refer to as an almost execution style. Authorities have identified the suspect as 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza. Tonight, he's at the center of a widespread manhunt that involves more than 200 law enforcement officers from multiple agencies. Well, the clock is ticking on America's debt.
On Wednesday morning, before opening fire on other students and security guards. Several were killed, Serbia's Interior Ministry said. Police said a 7th grade student had been arrested. Local media are reporting that this was the suspect being taken into custody. The father of one of the pupils in the class at the time said the boy started shooting randomly after shooting the teacher. Casualties are being treated and an investigation into the motives behind the shooting is underway, police said in a statement. Mass shootings are comparatively rare in Serbia, which has very strict gun laws. But the Western Balkans are awash with hundreds of thousands of illegal weapons following wars and unrest in the 1990s. Serbian authorities have issued several amnesties for owners to hand in or register illegal guns.